Hello, Haseeb bhai.
Hello, how are you, Mohit bhai?
Good, good, good. I can't see you.
Okay,
Welcome.
let
Yes,
me put my video on. Do you see me now?
yes, I see you very clearly. Welcome, welcome. Good to see you, my friend. Good to see you
Pleasure as
again.
always. Pleasure as
Yes,
always. And
yes, absolutely.
you have been so kind every time that you have put trust on me for this wonderful audience that we have been having on the
So
Asian Adventure.
you're a knowledge bank. You're the treasure trove for Gujarat, and you always bring so many dimensions to everyone here, and everybody is too excited. Um, Yeah, let me welcome our friends here. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome, Bhishmadev ji, Salil ji, Mahesh ji, Mahendra ji, Harpreet ji, Gagandeep ji. Welcome, 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 ladies and gentlemen. Many other people are joining in right now, and I want to know if I am audible and Hasiba is audible. If we are, do type in yes so that we know that it's all smooth and it's all good. We will wait to hear from you. In the meantime, I'm going to go ahead and introduce Haseeb Bhai again to you. A lot of you already know him, and some of you may not know him. So before he starts with his magic, let me tell you a bit about him. Haseeb Sheikh is a keen wildlife and natural nature enthusiast who works as a freelance naturalist with an experience as a consultant with a wildlife, nature, and conservation education center, promoting nature and environment education and awareness. He started his career by studying the behavior of leopards in the wild for 15 years at the Chambugoda Wildlife Sanctuary near Baroda, and he has been active in promotion and conservation of the biodiversity of this region. He frequented the Gir National Park to study Asiatic lions. He is the official snake and crocodile handler and is rescuer for Gujarat Forest Department. He is also an artist and a painter. His art is dedicated to the cause of nature and wildlife. In 2009, he led a group of 8,000 students to create a new Guinness World Record for the world's longest painting on pollution at Baroda city. Wow, that's fantastic. And now a bit about me quickly. I am Mohit Aggarwal. I'm blessed with four children, a son and a daughter, out of which two are non-humans. One is a Labrador, and the other one is an escapee African grey. I'm a follower of Lord Shiva, the god of karma. Professionally, I am an experiential ecotourism specialist with a deep love for nature. I help people travel to some wonderful places in nature. I'm on the board of Asian Ecotourism Network and I've been trained and certified by GSTC in sustainable tourism. I'm the founder of Asian Adventures, a 27-year-old travel outfit. It is the largest bird watching tour company in India. I'm also the creator of Neti Neta, an email marketing company. Now it is a full-fledged digital marketing company aiding wildlife conservation and ecotourism. These companies are on a large mission to help Asian elephants with their corridors, free the Himalayas of plastic waste, and also help small wildlife NGOs. And my personal goal is also to preserve and save the ancient Himalayan shrines. So that was a bit about me, and like we all can see that people can hear you well, and I think you should go ahead and start your presentation straight away. People are willing to listen. They're too keen to listen to you right
Thank you
now.
very
Over to
much,
you,
Mohit.
Azimai.
Thank you very much, Mohit bhai. Over the period of time in this wonderful, things that we have been doing with the wildlife, that brought me very close to tourism too. And then I started doing venturing out for the bread and butter with other than wildlife with different genres. And in the tourism, then I started the spiritual genre. I did the architecture, I did textiles, which is favorite, and I hope and pray that we do textiles in the near future time. Then we did I do tribals, and then I do a lot of other genres that have been around. One of them is the royal leg, and that we are talking about today. And we shall be talking about the wonderful erstwhile kingdoms of Gujarat today. So, straight up, I welcome everyone and ask Honorable Moderator to please get to the slide number 1 so that I can begin my talk and make people decipher what I'm talking. So, this is the slide that I prepared uh, and just try to show up the beautiful erstwhile princely kingdom of Gujarat. And so this is at Junagar, the Makbaras. So we shall have this a nostalgic peek into the past in today's talk. I take a lot of inbound tourists to our country, our proud country, India, who come and look out for Indian culture, Indian traditions, and Indian people, and of course, Indian wildlife included. And so I take them around to these places as per the requirement of the genre. And we shall now be talking about the Rajput and the Nawab genre of Gujarat, which is the princely state genre today. So at the time of the British withdrawal in 1947, there were roughly 565 princely kingdoms which are officially merged into the Indian Union. And much to the surprise of those who take Rajasthan as the epicenter of the erstwhile princely aura, it was Gujarat that had the lion's share of royalties, with more than half of total princely kingdoms spread across the subcontinent. Now, when we say subcontinent, we're not just talking India, but we are including Pakistan and Bangladesh and these places inside. And out of this 565, roughly 50% of the kingdoms were in Gujarat. It was Gujarat that showed the way when it came to the royalty, the blue blood. So we shall talk of the organized years of the princely kingdoms during the British colonialism time. Now, the architecture of the Indian royals came out into the limelight only in two different eras. One was the Mughal era, and everything before the Mughal era, the Khiljis and the Lodhis and the Tughlaqs and the slave kingdom that happened, and before that, the Rajput era, that is in the 11th century or 12th century, it was all obliterated. So it was the Mughal that was left, and so people think that it was only the Mughals. No, it was not Mughals. It was before Mughals. We had wonderful builders like Lodhis and all over India, and Tughlaqs, and the slave dynasty. Qutub Minar is an example of the slave dynasty. And so uh, here you have to keep in mind in our today's talk that the state may have been actually founded many years before, but it was under the British that the proper territories were defined. And that era, after the fall of Mughal empire in the 18th century, so after the Mughal empire fell, and then the princely states were divided, there was no central ruling from Delhi again, and these princely kingdoms were divided, and then small kingdoms were set up that uh, amounted to 565 that I said. Uh, so it has been that way. Let us go to slide number 2 to explain it better. Now that we are talking about Gujarat, uh, here we shall first talk about the princely kingdoms, the 565 princely kingdoms which accepted the suzerainty of the British. They are all depicted in the yellow part, in the blue part, if you can see. I'm sorry, in the yellow part, you can see. Uh, the blue, if I can get closer. It's the blue part where the kingdoms were, and the yellow was totally under the British. So the blue is the royal color, and the blue parts are all the princely kingdoms right there. So they accepted, they came under the flag of the Queen, Great Britain, you know. And so this will give you an idea about this 565 princely kingdom. And if you can get closer and you'll see many known states, you can read the names right there in the blue part. Next slide, please. Thank you very much. And because we are talking about Gujarat today, so Gujarat had about more than 200 of these princely states and princely kingdoms. But it would take me, a long time to go through this. So I designed, with care that I give you a nice route going through, beginning from Baroda and ending to Kutch. And I shall cover six states that will give you an idea about entire Gujarat, the culture, the tradition, and the princely values at that point of time. Let us first understand the gun salutes, because if you don't understand the gun salutes of these princely kingdoms under the British, you wouldn't know or understand the value of that particular state. So, talking about the gun salutes, as I begin, throughout the subcontinent, the princely kingdoms were given gun salutes by the British. A gun salute was granted by the princely state to the princely state by the British colonial paramount. And it was a kind of a protocol privilege for a ruler to be greeted with a number of gunshots, which are primarily cannons. And these gunshots varied from 3 to 21. More the number of gun salutes, more powerful was the state under the eyes of the British. Now, how did the British evaluate them as powerful? So, the number one reason, the revenue of collected from the states and given to the British. Number two was the size of the state. And number three, arguably, is the most important. How loyal was that particular state to the British? This was very important, and it can be argued upon it. But then the gun salute was given according to that way. So there were five states which were granted maximum gun salutes in India. Only five states. Let us talk about just name these five states, and they were Baroda. Of course, we shall be covering that. Hyderabad, Kashmir, Mysore, and Gwalior. These five states were the ones, the kings of these states or the premiers, leaders of these states were given a 21 gun salute by the British. So they were the biggest five out of 565 in India. Uh, so today's journey through our princely kingdom, we shall first talk about Baroda. From Baroda, we shall proceed to Bhavnagar. From Bhavnagar, we shall go to Junagar, which is a very sadistic view. From Junagar, we shall proceed northwards to Gondal. From Gondal, we shall again go northwards to Wakaner. And from Wakaner, we shall go northwest to Kutch, one of the biggest states area-wise in India, Kutch. And one of the most powerful and richest we begin with is Baroda or Vadodara, as it is known. So let us begin talking about these states. And we shall go to the next slide and we shall talk about the Baroda, Riyasat Baroda. Now, this is the coat of arms. Every state had a coat of arms. And it was a 21 gun salute, one of the 521 gun salutes of India, the princely states of India. And it was established in 1721 and it gave the kingdom away and was annexed to the Indian Union in 1949. It was founded by a certain general called Pilaji Gaikwad. He was the founder of the Gaikwad dynasty of Vadodara or Baroda. Shrimanta is what they call a Maharashtrian ruler. Is Shrimanta he's known as Shrimanta or Maharaja in Baroda. The coat of arms has two elephants, as you can see. That shows that elephants were very, they were found in wild in Gujarat at that point of time. Right. The most notable ruler of this era was Maharaja Sayaji Rao Gaikwad, who ruled from 1875 to 1935, and Baroda is also known as the Sayaji Nagari. If you could go to the next slide, please. Thank you very much. This is Sir Maharaja Sayaji Rao Gaikwad. He was the main ruler. He was a ruler par excellence. He was a man who set up Baroda and made Baroda one of the best cities in India. Up to 1947, it was one of the best cities in India that one could have gone. Be it knowledge, be it with education, be it cleanliness in the city, be it well-governed city, Vadodara or Baroda was one of the best. That is where I belong to. I later settled in Ahmedabad, but I am from Baroda basically. So Sir Sayaji Rao Gaikwad, a wonderful ruler, an able ruler, and we shall talk about, as we talk about Baroda more, we shall know about the legacy of this great gentleman. So next slide, please. This is the Lakshmi Villas Palace of Baroda. one of the best palaces in India. You may have seen palaces at Jodhpur and Udaipur and Mehrangarh in Jodhpur and the city palace in Udaipur, the forts there in Jaipur and Alwar and Bikaner and at Gwalior too. But the Baroda Palace is something that is a must see. So Lakshmi Vilas Palace, this was built in 1890 and it's done in a very Indo-Saracenic revival architecture style. At that time, this was the biggest private residence in the world. I repeat, it was the biggest private residence in the world, and it is 4 times the size of Buckingham Palace. So this is a beautiful palace worth visiting. Now 20% of this palace is open to public as a museum. Rest 80% is used by the current Maharaja, unofficial Maharaja, after independence, of course, and after the royalties were taken away. They are not official anymore. But still the aura of being a royal is still there. And all the Baroda citizens, Barodians, they respect their king very well. They love their king. So do I. And so before 1890, the Baroda royals lived in a Nazarbagh Palace, which is in the center of the old city, and which was a pretty humble place. So here there's a catch here. So the Britishers used to come around to the court and say, "Oh, my lord, you are living in a place that doesn't suit you. You have such a big aura. You have such a big name. You're too powerful. Let us build another palace for you." And so the king has to take out the money and he builds the palace, and ultimate gainers from the construction and the architecture are the Britishers. So it was built by Major Charles Mont. He was the architect, and it is done in 4 different styles. The left hand side is the pure Islamic style. Then next to it is the European style with the huge tower in the back. Then the third one is typical the Punjabi style, and the fourth one is the Rajput style to the right. So it's beautifully done, originally in a huge area. Now the area is restricted. Of course, there's a lot of encroachment around, but still, the land around the palace is amazing. And next slide, please. The palace has beautiful paintings and murals. And these paintings and murals were done by one of the pioneer artists of India, a man who began the European style of art in India, but he always did the Indian art in the European style. So the Italian paintings and the Gothic paintings and all the European three-dimensional paintings were done, but he made the art in the gods and goddesses of mythology in India, and he did all that. And he was himself a royal blood from South, and he was most of you must have heard his name, Raja Ravi Varma Sahab. Now, Raja Ravi Varma Sahab, one of his beautiful murals and paintings is on the backside of the Baroda Lakshmi Vilas Palace. There you can see it right on the screen. And he was specially commissioned by then Maharaja Sir Sayaji Rao Gaikwad. And many of his original works are at the Fateh Singh Museum, which is within the same palatial compound, a beautiful museum, a must go when you are at Baroda. And many of his other works are inside this Lakshmi Vilas Palace too, which has a huge compound. If we could go to the next slide, please. Thank you very much. Now the palace and the vicinity of palace, which has a beautiful gardens called the Sunken Garden. And they have lovely sculptures like this, what you're seeing on the screen right now. There's a huge collection of sculptures in marble, stone, and bronze. They include the copies of the great masters and the original works included. And these were commissioned by Maharaja Sir Sayaji Rao Gaikwad of renowned artists from all over Europe and world, because Maharaja Sayaji Rao Gaikwad himself was a very good traveler, and wherever he went, he had something on the mind that my subjects back in my capital city of Baroda should see how the world is doing with arts and culture and education. So he always brought back a lot of stuff. And he also commissioned a sculptor, Felici, from Italy. And his works adorn the Lakshmi Vilas Palace, not just Lakshmi Vilas Palace, the Fateh Singh Museum, and the City Museum, which is at the Sayaji Garden, a very good big botanical garden at Baroda, worth seeing again. and in the palace compound. So these are some of the beautiful sculpture works that are inside the palace compound that you will see. Well maintained sunken gardens around the palace, as you can see in the screen. It's a magnanimous palace, and the city museum and the Sayaji Garden we shall see later. Next slide, please. Within the beautiful Lakshmi Villas Palace is the Motibagh Cricket Ground. Now, this is a cricket ground which many of you must not have heard about. But let me give you a rough idea. The first world record of a century in just 62 balls in a one-day international was done by Muhammad Azharuddin against New Zealand, and it was this ground where he did it. It's a beautiful ground now under the BCA, that is Baroda Cricket Association, and this is the property of the current king. And they have a dispute with the probably the central government, central cricketing body of India, and therefore this ground no more host international matches. It's a very beautiful. Lot of good cricketers have come out from here, the Pathan brothers, the Pandya brothers that we now know, and Anshuman Gaikwad, Kiran More, Nayan Mogia, they all played on this ground. So this is, and around this ground is a 10-hole golf course in the Sunken Gardens. So there is a beautiful 10-hole golf course where the BMW Motors annually holds a very good international tournament on golf. Could we please go to the next slide? This is a no miss again, the beautiful Darbara Hall. The Darbara Hall of Baroda Lakshmi Villas Palace is a magnanimous, huge hall. The floors are done in very good Venetian style. The ceilings are beautifully done in the Islamic geometrical architecture. There are wooden balconies that are jutting out from the first level, as you can see on the either side, where the women used to sit under the parda and attend the royal, proceedings of judgments or problems or daily solving or running of the state. And you can far end, you can see this beautiful Venetian windows where there are beautiful Belgian colored glasses with not with the Christian motifs or the European motifs, but with the Hindu mythological motifs. The idea borrowed from Europe and then done here in the Baroda Palace with the Indian mythology. So that's a beautiful place to see. When you go down there, they have now put up the photographs of the kings and the queens and the princesses, where they are married and wherever they have gone. So all the general information is got there. When we take a lot of Deccan Odyssey clients on the train at a stop over here, they do nice garba out here and in this pack. Remember, only 20% of palace is accessible to public. The rest 80 is still route used by the royal family. We shall talk who uses it later. So next slide. He is the current king, the young man, 55 years now, Samarjit Singh Gaikwad. His father, late Ranjeet Singh Gaikwad, was the king before him, unofficial. But the last official king before his father was his uncle, his father's elder brother, Maharaja Fateh Singh Gaikwad, who was also the manager to many Indian cricket team touring abroad, in the 70s and the 60s and the 70s, and himself a very good cricketer. Samarjit himself is a very good footballer and cricketer. Next to him is a lady, his wife, Maharani Radhika Raje Gaikwad. Now she is voted recently as the most beautiful queen of India. Initially his grand aunt, Samarjit's grand aunt, Gayatri Devi ji, whom we know as the Jaipur Maharani, was the most beautiful one. And now Radhika Raje. And Radhika Raje comes from the Wakaner Jhala clan. And we shall be talking about Wakaner in this talk. So we shall get back to her and her cousin, who is now the king there, later. So very nice guy. If you go around and if he meets you, I used to, play both football and do some gym at the Baroda MS University, that is Maharaja Sayaji Rao University ground with him. And there was nothing about him that would suggest that he is the, prince at that point of time. And then when he would walk out and he would walk into a flashy car, we would know, or people would know that he's somebody special. So uh, lovely guy. Now, notable places to visit in Baroda. If you can go to the next slide, please. This is the beautiful MS University of Baroda. Up to 1947, this was among top 5 universities in India, top 10 universities in Asia, and it was among top 50 universities in the world. This is the famous dome of the arts faculty, which is the biggest free hanging dome in India. Without any pillars, this dome hangs. You can see to the left side is a beautiful observatory right there, which has got amazing telescope brought from Europe in 1940s to see the stars and the skies, to understand the astronomy and all that. So this is just an example. There are so many. The most famous faculty, two faculties are the Faculty of Home Science and the Faculty of Fine Arts of Baroda. They are amazing and they are most sought after. After NID Ahmedabad, Faculty of Fine Arts is the most sought after faculty. And uh, you know, at one point of time, there were, I remember when I was in college back there were 18 different football teams playing within themselves for the MS University Football Club from different countries. These 18 different football teams were from different countries. So there were Jordanians and there were Palestinians and then there was Egyptians and Nigerians and we had the Thais and we had the Sri Lankan team. So they were all coming here and studying here and there were 18 full-fledged teams with a lot of people from their respective countries cheering them from the crowd. If you could go to the next slide, please. This is the Sayaji Bagh or the Sayaji Garden with the Sayaji Museum in the background, in the backdrop. So everything about Baroda. Baroda is known as Sayaji Nagari. The train goes that to Baroda is called the Sayaji Nagari Express. The garden is Sayaji Nagari, Sayaji Garden. The university is Maharaja Sayaji Rao University. Everything about Baroda is after the great king of Baroda, Sir Sayaji Rao Gaikwad. So this museum has wonderful collection. And the garden has amazing botanical collection of plants and trees. So the botanical garden is wonderful. There's a huge zoo, big bird aviary with both exotic and endemic birds there. There's a toy train, which is now again taken back by the king and put up at the Fateh Singh Museum. And that toy train, it's a perfect, small, made working replica of the famous the Scotland engine. I forget the name right now, which is in the UK, and that works. And there are certain movies where Shammi Kapoor is sitting in the back of this train and singing "Chakke pe chakka, chakke pe gaadi." That was done in the Sayaji Garden on that particular toy train. So then there are stone, marble, and bronze statues all over the garden, and the museum displays amazing species of stuffed birds and animals. Amazing species, more than 1,000 species of stuffed birds. Back then, game hunting was easy. It was later after the independence and later after 1972 that the game hunting did not happen owing to the good reasons, so mind-boggling picture gallery. So they have a Flemish picture gallery, the French by the French artists, by Spanish artists, by the German artists, by the British artists. Amazing picture gallery. Lot of anthropological figures, Egyptian, Persian, Chinese, Japan, European galleries, even Egyptian mummies are in there. So it's amazing to go. And when at Baroda, this is again, other than the palace, the cricket ground, the Fateh Singh Museum, the Sayaji Garden, the MS University is a no-miss. The Sayaji Garden and this museum is a no-miss. Next slide, please. Let's talk about the culture of Baroda now. How can, when you are in Gujarat, how can you avoid a Garba? And Baroda is the epicenter of Garba. Baroda is called the cultural capital of Gujarat. And since this time of Maharaja, Garba has been in full swing. One of the best Garba venues is this United Way Garba venue, which you can see. Look at the people in the slide, and you will understand this many people dancing for the Navratri or the 9 nights of devotion with the Garbas. It's an amazing aura that happens. Could we go to the next slide, please? Thank you very much. And some famous food of Baroda. How can we go without food? Whatever we talk about when we talk about culture and traditions and about anthropology and people, food is the no miss. And here is the famous food of Baroda. To the left, you can see is called Sev. So you eat that with a bread or pav, and then there is this nicely prepared curry, which is very spicy. Remember, Gujarat is a spicy state. Lot of chicken and lot of lamb, lot of spices in Gujarat. As we go down, you will get to know about it. And there is a lot of sev and gantias done into it, and then you mix them and eat with again squirt you squeeze out a lemon there, and with the help of onions, as per your taste, you eat it. And to the right is the lilo chevdo. Now chevdo is again a mixture of dry fruits and this kind of fried items, and it gives amazing taste. So this is the famous specialty of Baroda. uh, could we now go to the next slide? Thank you very much. So we travel from Baroda, skirting around the Gulf of Khambat, and then going down to Bhavnagar, as I showed you in the Gujarat map when I showed you the route. So Bhavnagar, this is the coat of arms of Bhavnagar, and Bhavnagar is a 13-gun salute. The coat of arm has two bisons right there. There are two bisons right there, and it's a 13-gun salute. So Baroda is 21-gun salute. Then after Baroda, there will be a lot of 17-gun salute states, 19-gun salute states, then 17-gun salute states. Then there will be 15-gun salute states. Now, Bhavnagar is a 13-gun salute state, and it is ruled like Baroda was ruled by the Gaikwad clan, the Maharashtrian Gaikwad clan. Bhavnagar was ruled by the Gohil clan, which are the Rajput Gohils of Gujarat. And uh, the state was established in 1723. As I told you before, the state might be established well before what I'm talking, but we are talking about the period after the collapse of the Mughal Empire, when they literally became the kings. Before that, they used to pay royalty to the Mughals in Delhi. So in 1723 up to 1948, the most notable king of this period, or rather the founder of this clan and the princely state of Bhavnagar, was Bhausi Gohil. So his name was Bhausi, and therefore he called the capital city as Bhavnagar. The title given to the kings of Bhavnagar is either Thakur or Maharaja. Maharaja is used very well. Thakur is used less, but the title is Thakur. And the most notable ruler is Maharaja Krishna Kumar C.G. Gohil from 1990 to 1948. Now, could we go to the next slide, please, so I can talk about Krishna Kumar C.G.? Thank you very much. He is late Krishna Kumar C.G., Maharaja of Bhavnagar from 1990 to 1948. He was the last ruling Maharaja officially, and he was the first. Now, this is important. He was the first Indian king to give up his kingdom to the Indian Union in 1948, when the Sardar Patel, Honorable late Sardar Patel, sir, our first Home Minister, when he went around, the Iron Man, when he went around and when he convinced most of the kings, he convinced that you should join the Indian Union, give up your currencies or give up your, princely kingdom, and join our strong Indian nation. The gentleman on your screen, Krishna Kumar C.G. Gohil of Bhavnagar, was the first state to join the Indian Union as a princely kingdom. So he joined in. He was later the governor of Madras presidency too in 1948. Let's go to the next slide, please. Thank you. This is the Nilambak Palace of Bhavnagar. Now this is a beautiful homestay, very wonderful homestay. And Nilambak Palace was built, in year 1879 by Maharaja Sahib Takhat C.G. of Bhavnagar, who was the great grandfather of Krishna Kumar C.G. And they commissioned a German architect, Mr. Sims, to design this palace. And this was for years the home of the royal family. Later, the royal family moved to another palace in the same compound, and this was become a very beautiful heritage hotel. And it is used as a transit point, as a base for the tourists, when they visit the famous Palitana Jain temples at the Satrunjay Hill, or the Velavadar National Park, which is famous for its black bugs. So this beautiful palace, it's lovely. If you go out and search the rooms of Nilambak Palace and the place, you will really love this beautiful palace. Let us go to the next slide, please. This is the beautiful main hall of the Nilambak Palace, well adorned with hand-painted pictures of the forefathers of the current king. Very nicely and rustically done. It has always been that way. Lovely tapestry, tall European kind of windows and doors, with the center picture of Krishna Kumar Singh ji, who gave away his kingdom to the Indian Union. Right opposite to the entry that you can see that entry is done in a very nice southern style of architecture, southern Indian style of architecture, as you can see in the picture. So this is a very beautiful place to be. If we could go to the next slide, please. Beautiful courtyard in the Nilambak Palace. Thousands of pictures, hundreds and thousands of hand painted pictures of birds right there. And that shows the love for these royals for nature and wildlife and conservation. And these corridors are lined up with this exquisite collection by a famous painter, Somalal Shah. He was a local famous painter and he painted these beautiful pictures. And they are all inside the corridors, inside the rooms, inside the dining hall at the Heritage Palace, on the staircases. You'll find these beautiful pictures of birds right there. So most of the birders, they just don't go here because in the vicinity of the palace there is some nice birding happening too. But they do visit this palace just to see these hand painted lovely pictures uh, of during that period and during that era. Uh, the the current king is Vijay Raja Veerbhadra Singh Gohil, but we shall not talk about him, and we shall talk about the current prince, who is an interesting gentleman, and he is Jaiviraj Singh Gohil. You can see him on the left hand side. He is the president of the Gujarat Bodybuilding Association, a very fit for a young man, very fit. He did his hospitality course from Europe and then came back and adorns a lovely long mustache which he curls upon every morning. Lovely guy, lovely gentleman. I remember when I had this Brazilian team with me of 20 Brazilian women, and they came and said, certain Indian king, we have a statue of him in Brazil, and then he has a lovely Brazilian, there in Brazil we have a cow farm where certain Indian Gir cows are there, and this gentleman had sent them to us, so we respect him. I said, okay, wait, let me make you talk to this gentleman, his progeny, his great great grandson, and he was kind enough to come out, knows me very well. And then he said, Asif bhai, I'm here. Tell me, what can I do for you? And I said, these women are from Brazil, and they're talking about your great great grandfather who sent these cows to Brazil, and they're talking about your own grandfather, uh, Krishna Kumar Singh ji, whose statue is there. He said there, the women, and they said, we want to be around with him for half a day more. And he said, okay, everything on me. You will have your lunch with me, and you will have your tea with me, and we shall talk about it. He sat and talked. To the right is his picture with his lovely wife, who is the princess of Santrampur, another principality from Gujarat. We are going to miss that princely kingdom, but it's a lovely couple. His mother belongs to the royal family from Himachal. So that's about him. A wonderful gentleman to meet. If you ever go to Nilambak at Bhavnagar, make sure you just take a chance to meet him. He's a lovely guy. Comfortable places to visit at, Bhavnagar. We shall go to the next slide, please. So this is an old picture of the Velavadar National Park, one of the 4 national parks of Gujarat, and I have talked about it in my last webinar with Asian Adventures. But this is an old picture where the Bhavnagar royal family used to hunt with the cheetahs. They used to hunt here. You can see it in the picture, the old picture. There are cheetahs which are hunting the black buck. So the royal family used to have this cheetah khana. Everywhere in Gujarat, the royals have a place where they used to keep their cheetahs for hunting. They were known as hunting leopards. And the place was called a cheetah khana, where the attendants used to attend to the cheetahs, and these cheetahs would help the king, the royal family on hunting expeditions to hunt. So there you see one of the pictures at Velavadar. Velavadar National Park is a famous national park for black bugs. So this is one of the things that you might not have known. So I chose this slide to be there during my talk. Uh, Next slide, please. Around 50 to 55 kilometers away from Bhavnagar is the biggest pilgrimage for the Jain community. About 998 Jain temples on a hill called the Shatrunjay Mountains, and this place is called Palitana. Every Jain has a dream to at least once climb the 3,800 steps on feet to visit the Adinath temple right on the top. And I take a lot of people there. And despite being a Muslim, I'm always welcomed there by the priest, the Jain priest out there, and says, in Gujarati they say, "Sheikh Sahab avi gaya mehmanon ne leine," and they being a Muslim, a non-vegetarian, and to get into a Jain temple uh, is kind of something that doesn't go hand to hand, but they are very courteous, very kind to always allow me to go into the sanctum sanctorum and explain things to my guests when I take them. This is also another place which is a must visit, and you should all go there when you are at Bhavnagar. Always remember that. Thank you very much. Next slide, please. Now let's talk about some tribes. There are many tribes. For example, the Rabari tribes are all scattered all over Gujarat and South Rajasthan. So the Rabaris are everywhere. But some notable tribes that I want to talk about, which are in and around Bhavnagar. When you drive from Ahmedabad or Baroda towards Bhavnagar, you find this beautiful Maldhari tribe. Maldharis are the ones who used to catch snakes and monkeys and also bears, especially sloth bears. And they used to do road shows and make them money. Now, because it's all prohibited, and a lot of Madaris get beaten up by the policemen, or probably the so-called wildlife conservationists. They just come around and they snatch their things, and without making an alternate arrangement for them, uh, they just harass them. Of course, making shows with mongooses or with snakes or with sloth bears or monkeys is not good, but then there should be an alternate arrangement. One of the organizations saw their talent in weed plucking, and they gave them a chance to, make brooms. So most of the Madaris on the highway to Bhavnagar, you'll find this small chalets made out, and they just live there, and they make brooms and sell brooms. But they are still very expert, uh, you know, trackers of snakes and catchers of snakes. So this Madari community right there. Madari community is everywhere, all the way up to Punjab. Next slide, please. Yum yum time. And somebody was telling me that you should talk about the paflas and the dhoklas and the khakras of Gujarat. So let us first talk about the bhungra. Bhungra is a small to the right. Is a small, it's like a waffle, but it's circular and pipe, like a pipe in nature, as you can see to the right in yellow. And then there are boiled potatoes, which are very spicy, as I told you. You can see them red hot with red chilies. And then you take a piped bhungra and press it upon the potato, and then take a bite. So the potato, being soft after being boiled, gets into the bhungra, a part of it, and then you find this lovely taste with this wafer-like bhungra right now. To the left is the gatia. So a lot of you will find this familiar views, especially after the Three Idiot movies. It became very popular for Fafla, Ghatia, and all that stuff. So there's a bread right behind there with a very hot chili chutney, and there are different type of chutneys. There are about 20, 25 types of chutneys you have an option to go out with, and then you put their stuff this inside the bun, and just dip it into the chutney and eat. So much for Bhavnagar. If we could go to the next slide, please. Let us talk about Junagar, a very pathetic chapter of Gujarat and India principalities and royal kingdoms. Junagar, the Lord, one of the richest states in India, one of the most powerful states in India, the biggest state with the biggest, most gun salutes in Saurashtra region, peninsula of Gujarat, was the Nawab principalities of Principality of Junagar. Junagar means old fort. Old Gad fort. Junagar. So we shall talk about that particular old fort also. This is the coat of arms, as you can see. How can Junagar, under whom the Gir National Park light would not have two Asiatic lions on the coat of arms, as you see right there. The title they took was the Nawab, being Afghan Muslims. So they were the Nawabs of Junagar, and it is the 13 gun salute actually, but at home they used to have 15 gun salute. So the state was established by Sher Khan Babai, and therefore the clan came to know as the Babi clan. And it is from the same clan the famous actress Parveen Babi is the Bollywood belonged to. So she was from the Junagadh royal family. So Muhammad Sher Khan Babai from 1654 to 1948. 1654 to 1950. It is 13 gun salute. Notable ruler was Nawab Rasul Khanji Babi from 18. If you could go to the next slide, please. So Nawab Rasul Khanji Babi ruled from 1892 to 1911. Why is he notable ruler? I have twice talked on Asian Adventure webinar about him, because he is the man whom I give full credit for saving the Asiatic lion. He is the first king, Nawab of Junagadh, who came up with laws of even executing people if they shot the lion. So he is Sir Nawab Khan, Muhammad Rasul Khanji Babi of the Babi Nawab clan, and savior of Asiatic lion, and curbed a lot of lion game, game hunting at that point of time. But the surrounding princely kingdoms used to be smarter, and they used to give money to the shepherds, and they used to, get the lions. The shepherds used to get the lions into the other part of the boundary of the princely kingdom, and then they used to shoot them. So he used to get very wild on them, and then he used to write to the viceroy that do not interrupt when I fight with so and so princely kingdom. He's taking away my lions and he's shooting them. So that's why he's a very well respected person. Let's go to the next palace. Next slide, please. The Junagar palaces were huge palaces, but a single palace was never present there. It was different sections that happened. So one of the section is the Aina Mahal. Then they would have different Begum Mahal and this Mahal and that Mahal, and they would be all in the same compound. So this is one of the old pictures when the pre-independence time pictures when Junagadh was at its prime. So this is the Aina Mahal that you see right there. And in 1860, this picture was taken when cameras were very, very, very new. It was taken by a Britisher. And if you could go to the next slide, this is the state of Aina Mahal today. Now the main road goes through the Aina Mahal. A lot of its part has fallen down. Now there is a question, what is the royal family doing? We shall talk about that. The reason why this Junagadh Palace and other palaces of the Junagadh Nawabs in the state are all decaying or have lost in time, despite Junagadh being one of the richest princely states in India, is because that the last ruler, the Nawab of Junagadh, Nawab Mahabat Khanji II, he was the last ruler when the clock struck to 1947. He declared his kingdom to be a part of Pakistan after the partition. So he declared his kingdom Junagadh to be a part of Pakistan. That was not possible because the majority of people were non-Muslims. belong to our majority faith of our country, the Hindu faith, and subsections of the Hindu faith. And therefore, a lot of these people could not leave Junagadh and go away because nobody wanted to be with Pakistan. Muslims like me and my forefathers, we did not want to be a part of Pakistan ever. So we stayed in India. But the Nawab declared it. And then the Nawab had to go away. you know. So majority citizens of Junagadh being from Hindu faith, obviously were averse to the idea of being Pakistanis. And there was a civil protest and help arrived as in the Indian government. Our Iron Man, Sardar Patel Saab, sent an reinforcement right there. And Nawab was forced to flee to Pakistan. And all the Nawab's palaces and properties were razed by the angry people, and also the little bit of clashes that happened at that point of time, leaving nothing noteworthy except whatever is there in the current museum. Beautiful chandelier, one of the best collection of glassware that you will ever see, silverware that you will ever see, and gold work that you will ever see in Gujarat or in other part of India. He was one of the richest guy. Let us show this gentleman on the next slide, please. He is Nawab Mahabat Khanji, the man who declared that Junagadh should be a part of Pakistan, which did not happen, and which rightly did not happen. So that is how the story goes. Notable places to visit in Junagadh. Now here there are a lot of notable places, and they are about history of 3,500 year old. We are going to talk about. Could we go to the next slide, please? This is the Bahuddin Makbara. It is in the enclave called the Mahabat Makbaras, where Nawab Rasul Khanji and other Nawabs are buried. But look at the architecture here. It is a very nice blend of Indo-Saracenic, Islamic, Hindu architecture, Gothic, Venetian. It looks like a Taj Mahal from away, but look at the parapets running around the towers and going all the way up. Right now there is a very the ESI and the government has given, this was in a very bad shape for about since 1948 till up to 2020, and certain crores of money from the funds by the ASI have come up, and now this place is turning into a place to visit. But anyways, whenever at a given point of time you would go there, you would find a lot of foreigners visiting, inbound guests of ours being at that place and always lamenting that you guys are not taking good care of it. It is now that some good care has been taken and it has been revived and redone. Lovely place. As you can see, you will fall into love with this place. They are always addressed to as the Mahabat Makbaras. Although this is the Makbara of Bahuddin, the Wazir of Nawab, who was a very able person back then. If you could go to the next slide, please. The left-hand upper corner is a fort or a gad, and this is a 3,500-year-old fort, and therefore it is called the Junagadh or the Old Fort, and that is the name from where the name of the place, the Junagadh city, derives from. Now this fort has everything that you can ask for. They say it was built by Ashoka. There are a lot of theories about it, and then redone by the Nawabs later on. So there are a lot of Hindu aspects, motifs, and a lot of Islamic motifs on there. To the right of the fort is the Jama Masjid, the three-towered Jama Masjid of the Uppercote Fort. This is called the Uppercote Fort. So is the Jama Masjid. Right-hand side bottom is a beautiful Jain stepwell carved out from the mountain. It is not built. There are no bricks. You can see it is just mere stone. Just stone. And it is carved all the way deep below, a very deep stepwell. There are two such stepwells right there. This is called the Adikadi stepwell. And to the left-hand side bottom are 3,200-year-old Buddhist caves. Amazing. You should always visit there. When you are at Junagadh, you will find a day, morning to evening, not enough to be in this place and to get into the yesteryears and the nostalgic moments of the erstwhile princely aura and era or the medieval times. Other than that, there are lovely Turkish cannons in this fort. The Ottoman Empire Sultan sent some Turk cannons to fight the Portuguese. He sent these cannons to the Nawab of Junagadh, so that the Sultan of Gujarat actually to fight with the Portuguese who had taken the island of Diu away from Gujarat. So they are those Nilambak cannons. They are known as, they are lying right there. So you should also see there. If you could go to the next slide, please. Now here is something 4,500 years ago. This is the Ashoka rock eddy, great Ashoka of the Kalinga fame, Ashoka the Great. There are only few kings which we call great in in our Indian history. Ashoka being one, Akbar being two. So Ashoka's rock eddy, and there are three different languages: Brahmi, Sanskrit, and Prakrit inscribed on this rock eddy. It was lying in the open, and Nawab Rasul Khanji built a room around it so that it was protected from being ruined, or over the period of time there is no erosion from it, from this rock eddy. You could walk around the parapets, climb the staircases, and see and read from the top if you're eloquent enough in Sanskrit or Prakrit or probably Brahmi scripts. So it's a must go when at Junagadh. Next slide, please. Tribes of Junagadh. And when we are talking about Junagadh, it's Gir, and there is this wonderful tribe of the Africans in Gir. They have been here for 350 to 400 years. Some of them were brought by the Nawab of Junagadh, and some sold to the Nawab of Junagadh as slaves by the Portuguese. So these are the African, or they are called the Siddhis. Now they talk in Gujarati, the Saurashtra dialect of Gujarati. And they are all, by faith, they are all Muslims. These African Siddhis or Badshahs. And they are well aligned with the, the new culture that developed. But when you are at Gir, looking for the Asiatic lions, or you are at Junagadh, you can definitely, the hotels would ask you if you would like to arrange a Dhamal program. Dhamal is the dance of this city, which is the African dance. They haven't forgotten their culture and dance, so they do this Dhamal dance for you. I'm sure Mohit Bhai would be smiling as he hears it. And to the right is another very good tribe called the Maldhari. Maldhari means one who owns some kind of property as in cattle. So they are called the Maldharis, and they are the dwellers of the Gir National Park. They are strong people. With their sticks, they can drive away the lions, when they come to attack their cattle. So this is the Maldhari tribe, and you will find them all over Junagadh, even the Africans all over the Junagadh. They are the tribes of Junagadh. Could we go to the yummy slide, please? Yeah, so here we go with the food of Junagadh. To the right is the dahi bada or the dahi vada. So everything in the west of Indian, it is V, and if you go to east of India, it becomes B. So the same thing is dahi bada from Allahabad onwards, but in Gujarat and in Rajasthan, it is dahi vada. So it's famous. But the Gathias again, the Junagadhi Gathias, right here to your left, with chutneys as well as with very, very hot green chili. And this often is the morning breakfast for people in Saurashtra or the Kathiawad area, the Gathias and the Paplas. So this is Junagadh on the yummy side of it. We drive northwards to Gondal. Next slide, please. The Kingdom of Gondal. This is the coat of arms of Gondal. Now, Gondal is a very awkward coat of arms. Normally, when you see a coat of arms of a princely kingdom, there would be some animal, a powerful animal depicting the power and the strength of that kingdom. Gondal has a ribbon flying with a sword cutting the ribbon, and a very nice principality. And it is the principality of the Jadejas. Now, this will ring a lot of bells into your head. For example, Ajay Jadeja is a cricketer. The movie was made. Santokh Ben Jadeja, on her, Sabana Azmi acted in a movie. She was a goon in that movie. I forgot the name of the movie. It was on Santokh Ben Jadeja. And then the current cricketer Ravi Jadeja. So they are all Jadejas, and Jadejas are Rajput. And Jadejas are not just Gondal. There are seven big riyasats in Gujarat which belong to Jadeja. We shall talk about Kutch. Kutch is also a Jadeja state. So Gondal is a Jadeja lineage, and it was founded in 1634 up to 1948, founded by Thakur Shri Kambojji Jadeja Sahab. Now they take titles as in Maharaja or Thakur again, like what the Bhavnagar royal family does. And the notable ruler was Bhagwan Siji Sangram Siji Jadeja. Next slide, please. He is Bhagwan Siji, a reformer, a very good reformer, a well-educated man in the UK. He got education from London and then came back and then reformed. His reforms were so good that if there was an unemployed youth in Gondal, he would get a monthly payment from the exchequer. Such lovely. First electricity coming in and the first railway for Saurashtra Kathiawar region coming in and all that during those eras. So he was there from 1685 to 1944, just a few years before, they were brought into the Indian Union. So he is Maharaja Bhagwat Siji. Let us go to the next slide, please. It is a 11-gun salute, if I may tell you. Gondal is a 11-gun salute style. This is from the backside, other side of the river, the Navlaka Palace. Now, the Navlaka Palace was built in 1748, and it has a lovely sculpted facade, which is a part of the Darbargarh or the royal court, well built in the yellow sandstone with intricate sculptures carved. And it is called the Navlaka Palace as its construction at that time, that point of time, that is, I'm talking about 1748, it costed 9 lakh Indian rupees. So Navlaka. Okay. The corridors have mind-boggling sculptures of gods and goddesses and mythical figures blended with European gargoyles. The palace is now converted into museum. Beautiful museum. And the Gondal royals have always been known for their mind-boggling collections. So the Navlaka Palace has some wonderful collections. If you could go to the next slide, please. Yeah, so you can see the teapots to the right hand top are the teapots. The right hand, left hand top are the teapots. I'm sorry. The right hand top are the dolls. The left hand bottom are carriages. Amazing, about 90 to 100 carriages, horse carriages. And the right hand bottom is the crockery. Other than this, they have toys collection of the cars that the princes used to play with. They have a collection of how a prince's rooms would be. They have a collection of eggs of birds. They have a collection of clocks. And the another good collection is minerals, that is semi-precious and precious stones, the beadwork collection, the embroidery collection. Navlaka Palace is a beautiful museum, and you should always go there when at Gondal. Uh, so next slide, please. This is the Orchard Palace, and this is now the homestay. It is a heritage hotel, and this is just on the outside of the Hazur Bark Palace, where the royal family resides. This used to be the palace where the guests of the royal king, used to come, and the king used to have meetings, and they used to sleep here, the guests. So this was a kind of a guest house palace. Now it is converted into a heritage hotel, a beautiful heritage hotel. So it is actually the annex of the royal palace residence, Hazur Palace it is known. It's again late 19th century it was made. Now it has a 7-room heritage hotel, and if more rooms are needed, they go to the other palace, which we are going to talk about later. It has beautiful antiques, miniature carpets displayed on the wall, lot of animal trophies, handicrafts, and other places. And the other Riverside Palace is a 5-minute drive from this palace, where there are 11 more rooms, which are again very rustically done. Next slide, please. Around the Orchard Palace, are two beautiful things to be seen, because you are not allowed in the Huzur Palace, which is behind where the royal family stays. The biggest vintage car collection you will see, about 125 vintage cars, all in running condition. I repeat, all in running condition. The current Maharaja, unofficial Maharaja, has put up mechanics and team of mechanics who work on these cars and make sure that they all run well. And the bottom picture is the royal carriage, the royal railway saloon, and it has four sections: a small pantry, a sitting area, a dining area, and the sleeping area for the king. It is a meter gauge saloon, which is between the small gauge and the big gauge that we now have all over India, the bigger gauge. This is a meter gauge, which used to be a central railway gauge. Uh, so beautiful saloon, very pristine condition. They have maintained it. It is next to the Orchard Palace. The guests go to the both the things when they visit to this palace. They go and see the cars, as well as they go and see this saloon, and they really like it. Uh, we shall go to the next slide. This is the Riverside Palace. The Riverside Palace is a maison which was built in a European style in 1885 for the prince, the crown prince of then Maharaja. And being next to the river, it was called the Riverside Palace. It has 11 rooms, and it is an extended part of the Orchard Palace Heritage Hotel. The Riverside Palace has gardens beside the river where banquets are held nowadays, and a lot of income for the royals comes from the banquet that people host right there. They take it on rent. The palace is furnished with colonial furniture, old dressers, four-poster beds, and game hunting trophies are amazing inside. As I told you at that point of time, game hunting was not a big deal, and the room are high ceilinged and very spacious. The current Maharaja, if we can go to the next slide, is a very soft-spoken personality. He's Jyotendra Singh Ji Vikram Singh Ji Jadeja. Very nice man to meet. If you just come across when he's taking his morning walks around, and if you are at Orchard Palace, he would just smile at you, say hello to you. And the current heir, he is from 1969. He has been the unofficial king. So the famous food of Gondal, if we could go to the next slide, please. Yeah, fafda. So fafda with a lot of chilies. Gondal is known for its lovely fafdas. And when you go, what you do is stick like fafda is too big to put into your mouth. So you just break a part of it, put a piece of chili on the top, and start munching. And if you're a good chili eater, no problems. If you're not a good chili eater, you taste it again next day morning. So that's lovely fafdas. Could we please change the slide? Wankaner. We are now going northwards from Gondal, and Wankaner. The clan is a Jhala clan. So the state was found in 1620 by Sartanji Jhala, and but the period where it became an independent state was between 1807 to 1947. The title is Maharana, not Maharaja. Like the Mewad rulers, this title is Maharana, because Jhalas are basically Mewadis who migrated into Gujarat. It's a 11-gun salute. You can see the coat of arms is two tigers. There are two tigers right there. So if you could go to the next slide, please. The Ranjeet Villas Palace. This is the uh, ex-residence of the Maharanas of Wankaner. Now it is converted into a beautiful museum. The royals have shifted to another palace which is next to it. Located very beautifully, the Ranjeet Villas Palace is perched atop a hill and offers a splendid view of Wankaner city. And it was designed by Maharaja Amar Singh Ji himself, who was the ruler of Wankaner in 1907. The palace is done in the Indo-Saracenic and the Indo-Gothic style of architecture. Interiors are done in Italian marble, stained glass, Varma teak, antique furniture, marble fountains, Murano chandeliers, hand-woven carpets, and varieties of stuffed animal trophies right there. Now, this is the principality or princely kingdom. The current king's cousin sister is Radhika Raje Gaikwad. She is married to the Baroda king Samarjit Singh Gaikwad, which the first picture that we saw of the royal family, the current king of Baroda. She is a daughter of this principality. Uh, if you could go to the next slide. Thank you. This is the royal oasis. Now, amongst the royal families in Gujarat, the Wakaner princely family was the first to open their palaces to tourists and guests. The Royal Oasis Palace, which is also called as Moti Wadi or Badi, as they call it in eastern India and Bengal, that is a place to stay. And abode is called a Badi, which is about 2 kilometers away from Ranjeet Villas Palace, and it is converted now into a heritage hotel. It's a beautiful heritage hotel, and it used to be a retreat from scorching summer heat for the Wakaner royal family, and it is actually naturally surrounded by a lot of greenery and a wonderful place for good birders to go around. If you could go to the next slide, please. One of the best step wells, which was recently done about about 100 years ago, is this. To the left of the frame, daytime and nighttime, is this three-floored step well. Every floor is beautifully decorated with marble and other stones, with balconies jutting into the well in the center, and there are sculptures around the walls inside the well. You can literally walk off, sit there, and enjoy the coolness of the summer. The royal family used to do that. It is one of the best step wells, or wow, as it is called in Gujarat. In Rajasthan, it is called the Bawri, and in Delhi and Agra, it is called the Bauli. To the right is a 100-year-old swimming pool in the same royal oasis premises, with a wooden deck and totally covered from top. One of the most rustic and well-maintained swimming pools you will ever see. Very good. Every time I take foreigners or inbound guests coming to this place on the Gujarat Lake, they love to take a splash into these pools, and they just wouldn't come out for hours and hours together. It's about 100-year-old, and I must admire that they have appreciation should go in for them, that they have really maintained it very well. Could we go to the next slide, please? These are the beautiful rooms and the courtyards at the Royal Oasis for those who wish to go there and live there, do birding, enjoy the very laid-back attitude of Wakaner city, and know about Gujarat and its people and its tribe. The current heir, if we could go to the next slide, please. Maharana Keshri Singh Jhala. In fact, his father died about a few months back, so he was crowned as Maharana. His cousin sister is Radhika Raje, wife to Samarjit Singh. And his wife, she is a princess of Sirohi Riyasat at Rajasthan, Yogini, Maharani Yogini Devi ji. So, a very nice gentleman, Kesri Shiji. And Wankaner is a place to go if you are there. Next slide, please. So, here we go with the food. To the left is the food. Again, bun and smashed potatoes right there. It is called the pav bateta, the bateta pav. And look at the potatoes, the boiled potatoes. They are really red hot, waiting to be eaten. The smash is squeezed between the two pieces of the bun or the bread, and then you can slide in a chili inside and just start munching it with sip of chai every time. To the right is one of the tribes called the Charan Tribes. They are the shepherd tribe in a very bad condition. This is the tribe that I see the most at, although Rabaris and Maldharis are there at Wakaner, but this is the tribe that I see the most. Beautiful young women. They are naturally so beautiful with sharp features, and their attractive designs, clothing is amazing. And a lot of people take very good pictures when I take them as guests around. Next slide, please. We go northwest and we go to the biggest riyasat, and our last riyasat of the day or last kingdom of the day is the Kutch. Now, this is a no miss. I wouldn't be wrong if I say that Kutch is right now at the epicenter. Of course, subtracting the COVID part of it, was at the epicenter of Indian tourism, the most vibrant and the colorful area. If you are really interested in tribes and culture, is Kutch. This is the coat of arms right there. It's a 17-gun salute. It's a big Riyadh. Again ruled by the Jadeja clan. Now, basically, the Jadejas first came from the other side of the Sindh, then came into Sindh, and from Sindh they came to Kutch. They set up their kingdom in Kutch. From Kutch, many of them migrated and came up with Gondal, Drawl, Rajkot is again Jadeja. Then, of course, I said Gondal. Drawl is one of Morbi is Jadeja. So there are about 7 to 8 Jadeja princely kingdoms in Gujarat. It's so Jadeja clan is a big clan which has different states in Gujarat. So the coat of arm is 2 horsemen and 17 gun salutes, as I already said. The title is Maharao. The king of Kutch always has a title of Maharao. So we have a Thakur, we have a Maharaja, we have a Maharana, and Kutch kings are Maharao. Uh, so if you could go to the next slide, please. He is Maharaja Khengarji Jadeja, Khengarji Maharao, Khengarji Jadeja, and he established the principality in 1875. He was there in 1875 up to 1942, just before the. So he was the notable ruler. The founder was Khengarji I. He is Khengarji III, the one on the screen. And Kutch Riyasat was founded in 1890. So there is a lake, huge lake in Bhuj, the epicenter of Kutch, the famous Bhuj city, which is called the Hamirsar Lake, and it was built by Sir Khengarji, Maharao Khengarji. So he was a very progressive Kutch ruler. He also held the vice president of the British Empire Lake, and he finished the famous Prague Mahal, which was begun by his father, which we shall see in a while. He also built the Ferguson Museum or the Kutch Museum at Bhuj. The oldest museum in Gujarat was built by him, actually. And he was the first Indian members of the Bombay Natural History Society, the BHNS. He also brought electricity and railway line to Kutch. So there are a lot of notable things that these princely kingdoms did. If you could go to the first palace of the Jadejas of Kutch, the Maharaos. In the next slide, please. This is the on the left hand top is the Aina Mahal, the oldest palace. Aina Mahal was built by Maharao Lakpatji of Kutch in 1750, and it is designed in a very, very typical Indian style, or the Solanki Gujarati style, as I may call it. Decorated it with European style glass, mirrors and tiles. It has an audience hall, pleasure hall, a lot of, but its main attraction is the hall of mirrors, and that is why it is called the Aina Mahal. The pictures that you see below, the 3 pictures that you see below, are this beautiful, colorful Aina Mahal picture. You can, you would forget the Sheesh Mahal of Udaipur, where the shooting of the Anarkali dance was done for Mughal Azam movie. The Sheesh Mahal is absolutely nothing in front of this. That is my thinking. This is beautifully done in European. Sheesh Mahal is older, of course, in a way. And the entire palace fell down in the very sorrowful natural calamity of 2001, the earthquake that happened in Bhuj. This entire thing fell down. The old palace, Aina Mahal, fell down. But they did really well. A lot of it was salvaged and redone again. And they tried to salvage most of it, and it is beautifully redone again. And a lot of guests go right there. Next slide, please. The Prague Mahal. The Prague Mahal was built by Rao Pragmalji after his name. Pragmalji too built it in 1865, and it was designed by Colonel Henry St. Clair Wilkins. It is totally done in the Italian and Gothic styles or the Romanesque architecture with shades of Indo-Saracenic revival style to be seen inside. The cost of construction of this palace was 3.1 million rupees. We are talking about 1865 when the construction started. And the Kutch royals moved into this palace in 1879. They left the Aina Mahal alone. It was, of course, in use, but they moved. This is just opposite to Aina Mahal. The famous Bollywood movie Lagan was shot in this palace. The Lagan movie was right here. The entry arc that you see is where for those who have seen this movie, where he kicks the Indian guy on his chest, who is trying to take care of his horse, is right there. Uh, so, if you could go to the next slide, please. This is the beautiful Darbar Hall of the Prague Mahal. Very high ceiling, almost 3 floors high. And this Darbar Hall is huge one. A very good Darbar. Let us go to the next slide and see the third palace. This is the Vijaya Villas Palace. Now this palace was built by Maharao Khengarji III in 1929, so about 93 to 94 years old, at Mandvi, which is 60 kilometers away from Bhuj on the seashore. And it was the summer resort for his son, Prince Vijayaraj, and so named after him, Vijay Vilas Palace. And this palace is built with red sandstones with elements of Rajput architecture. The window adorns the colored glass, carved stones, jalis, jharoka, chhatris, chhajjas, murals, lot of lovely things, and many other artistic carvings. Surroundings a beautiful garden. The balconies afford a beautiful super view of the seashore. The famous movie Hum Dil De Chuke Sanam, Bollywood movie, was shot in this palace. So this is the palace where that movie was shot. If you could go to the next slide, please. Thank you. Late Maharao Sahab. He just died last month. Just he left for the heavenly abode last month. So we hope and wish and pray for him, a lovely gentleman who was, who did a lot for even for the current people of Kutch, uh, you know, and he is his name is uh, Pragmalji III Jadeja. So Maharao Pragmalji III Jadeja. Now he had no children. So there is a lot of confusion now going that who shall be the heir or the unofficial next Maharaja of Kutch, which is a very beautiful princely kingdom. But it is understood that his younger brother might take over. So once it is official, we shall be very happy to know about it. Next slide, please. Notable places to visit when at Kutch. Of course, the Great White Desert. I dare say that today this is the topmost visited hot tourist destination in India. And of course, the Gujarat government for last about 10 or odd years has come up with the Run Utsav or the Desert Festival. This white salt desert goes all the way to Pakistan on the border. Uh, you know, to the left is the beautiful ambience. To the right is I'm just pulling a camel cart with my guests sitting inside and enjoying this beautiful ambience right there, the Great White Desert. Let's go to the next slide, please. The kaleidoscope of Kutch. Kutch is a kaleidoscope when it comes to tribes. Nowhere in India you will find as much tribes as you can find in Kutch. More than 56 tribes, both belonging to uh, the Hindu faith and the Muslim faith. On the top, when you see the left, top left, is a woman with a big nose pin. She is a Muslim Dhaneta Jat. The next one, next to her, the second woman is the Fakirani Muslim Jat lady. They are all known for their nose pins. The third one is a Meghwal lady. The fourth one in black is an elderly woman who is a Rabari lady. And below with the camels is the Rabari migration. And there are Muslim Jats who migrate the same way. It is the dress that makes you differ that, yeah, these are Rabaris and these are the Jats. And they carry their houses on the camels, as you can see. It is a photographer's delight. Only the Muslim Jats have 12 different tribes, and they are known and segregated and separated from each other through their nose pins. Just the nose pins. And there are a lot of Sodha Rajputs that are Ahirs right there, that are Rabaris. And the Rabaris have three major clans, the Debariya Rabari, the Wagadiya Rabari, and the Kachi Rabari. So it's a kaleidoscope. There are Sumras, Haleputras, there are Samas, there are Mutwas, and everyone you see there. The Mutwas are Yamni Muslims and they have settled in Kutch. The last village when you go to the White Run are the Mutwas, and their embroidery is amazing. The Ahir embroidery is amazing. The Soda Rajput embroidery is amazing. Kutch is a textile heaven. Textile heaven. The Khatris of Kutch, they do the Ajrak block printing, they do the Bandhani or the tie and dye, they do the beautiful Rogan, which is painting on cloth. So Kutch is a no miss. Next slide, please. As you can see, the top right, top left is the Ajrak block printing. The center one is the Rogan design by the Khatris. The top right is the beautiful tie and dye by the Khatris. The bottom is the embroidery. To the left is the Ahir embroidery. To the right is the Rabari embroidery. The Mutwa embroidery is beautiful, but then I could adjust this much on the slide. So beautiful. Kutch is a textile paradise. Next slide, please. Food. How can we forget it? The Kachi Thali. Now here you have to remember, to the left is the Kachitali. The Kachitali is a bit different from the Gujarati Thali. Kutch is a part of Gujarat, but except this, the script, Gujarati script, the language is more inclined towards Sindhi. The culture is more inclined towards Sindh, and the tribes are more inclined towards Sindh. It has got nothing in common with Gujarat except the script. Until 1947, most of the Kutchis who were educated lot used to write in the Sindhi script or the Arabic script. So it is totally different, but it is a part of Gujarat now. To the right is the famous Dabali. So you take the loaf of a bun or a bread, and then you stuff it with patties of mixed vegetables as well as mashed potatoes, and you sprinkle pomegranate on it or you sprinkle coconut on it, and there is a lot of save inside. And this dabeli has become famous all over Gujarat and Mumbai only because of Kutchis. Next slide, please. So thank you so much for bearing me, trying to understand Gujarat, the principalities of Gujarat, the kingdom of Gujarat. This is Haseeb Sheikh. I'm a naturalist, but I do take out a lot of people on different genres. My phone number, my email address is right there. And I thank once again Asian Adventures and Mohit Bhai to have allowed me and make me feel proud to display my Gujarat to the people who do not know about Gujarat, the wonderful royal leg of Gujarat. And I put a request to him that we can definitely do a seminar, a webinar on textiles of Gujarat, which would be very interesting. Thank you so much. If you have questions, as Mohit Bhai would take over and he would handle the situation. Thank you, sir.
It was absolutely an eye opener and absolutely a wonderful presentation. You know, some of these places I've already been to and I've experienced exactly what you said. The Viris of Gujarat, of Gondal, you know, which actually could be another habitat for lesser florican during the monsoon, you know. And if the Raja allows, I've stayed in both the places, Orchard Palace and Riverside Palace. And at that point of time, it was raining very torrentially, so we couldn't go to those places. but those could be the Viris could be the right habitats to look for lesser floricle. Outside the park, where one area is behind gate, the other area is Bhavnagar and Velapdar, but those are national parks. But this could be a possible area. Second thing is that cheetah khanas was such a great opportunity to save the cheetahs from extinction. It could have, if there was, more foresight, then I think the Rajas could have contributed towards, but it's history now. And when you were talking about cheetah khanas, the first thing was, oh man, if we knew that the cheetah was going to go, these cheetah khanas could have served the purpose of keeping these cheetahs alive. The third thing I think is important is in ecotourism, that while each one of us is a nature lover and want to go and look at wildlife and birds and various ecosystems, it's very important to appreciate the people and the culture and the tradition and the history and the food and everything, and incorporate that into your nature-centric attitude and see how you can make it more sustainable with them, with their cultural values, which is already sustainable. It's just that we've moved towards modernity and we are also crisscrossing those territories again and again, and we trying to say it has to be more sustainable, but actually it is sustainable. It's just that we need to start thinking in those lines. When we go with our cameras and our binoculars and our nature-centric attitude, we need to take those factors into account. Fair trade practices, organic living, the way they are, the respect. And yesterday when I was doing a webinar with Brett and Vikas Munch, and I was talking to them about ecotourism gear. I said the first thing where we are still going wrong right now is that we are going as classroom teachers from these big cities into these remote areas, and we are saying you got to wear olive green trousers and shirt to go into the jungle. You got to wear khaki. You got to say good morning, good evening. You got to, so we are trying to bring in all those things that we have learned from the African experiences and or whatever has happened since the 70s, and we're trying to plant them there. So the Fauji attitude needs to go away. If there is a gentleman who's a jeep driver, a gypsy driver, showing you lions or taking you bird watching, he should be encouraged to keep his attire on of a dhoti or a lungi and his kurta and his pagdi as his forest uniform. Why does he have to? And then if we have to go and say, okay, this is what we need to do, we don't have to be classroom teachers. We need to be sitting at the back and saying, this is how they do it abroad. This is how they do it in different national parks. How do you want to do it? So the intelligence which already exists there needs to come out, not subjugated with what we have learned in different institutes, wildlife or institutes of India and other places, and say, oh, this works there, so it should work here also. I'm saying that great concepts, but local ways of functionality must be brought in when we're talking about. Sorry, I digress from my from whatever that you were talking about in terms of its palaces and forts and other things to my nature-centric attitude. Sorry about that. But
I sail in the same boat.
Yeah. So I think so. Friends, if you've got questions, go ahead and ask. I know that we've got we've got overboard with time, but that's okay. That's no problem. Time bhi apna, Sunday bhi apna. So go ahead if you've got questions to ask. If not, then what you can do is you can either write to me or to Haseeb Bhai directly and establish a communication. And Haseeb Bhai, I'm going to uh, invite you to carve out a program which is cultural and nature-centric mix for Game Birding Lodge, so that it can be delivered as a course, a learning course to tourists rather than running it as a birding hotel only. Not just a hotel, not just food and accommodation, but it should be a place. It should be a gurukul. It should be a education imparting place rather than just a resort. Yeah. So this is what we need to do together. And
It takes two to tango. It takes two to tango. One is
absolutely,
a teacher. One is a teacher who probably doesn't take himself as a teacher. Another is a person who keeps faith in him. So it takes two to tango. If you're inviting me out there, you can just check it out. And I hope, pray, and wish that inshallah we come up with something
and,
very
and
positive
all
being
our,
into this space.
yes, and all our participants who are here, please feel free. You're welcome to give your points of view and also engage with us as we go along in carving out different dimensions of ecotourism, which is currently missing in India in different places. So we need to make those changes within this decade for sure. Great. So thank you, Haseeb Bhai. I don't see many questions here because
Yeah.
I think have left. But thank you for this absolutely brilliant presentation. I'm going to uh, take up your offer to travel with you to different places this winter. COVID, no COVID, we are going. Yeah.
We are
So
going.
either we go in a car or on a motorcycle. I am okay with, or we go in your camel cart, wherever, whatever you do, I am with you. Yeah. Great.
We shall go. We shall go, inshallah. We shall go.
Great. Thank you. Thank you very much.
My pleasure. Thanks again to Asian Adventures and Asian Adventures team, led by Mohit Bhai. And thank you so much for being here. Always a pleasure.
Shabak hai.
Shabak hai.